Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey, and I'd like to take a couple minutes to discuss the issue of using a muzzle. Here, with this one here, you can see it's a nylon type of a muzzle. It goes over the mouth area of the dog. It just slips on, and it has a plastic clip here, and as well as a tightening area here. We can tighten it, adjustment here as well, so you can tighten on the dog. Now I get questions about muzzles and the circumstances of when they should be used, how they should be used, and my whole perspective about devices comes from understanding the connection issue, the relational part of that, with how it connects to a dog's decision-making process through the relational roles. Okay, a lot of trainers don't understand it, don't want to understand it. They're just caught up with certain ideas. So here, understand how I see a device. It really comes from, is an extension of how you think, and so therefore that's why when I group in or when I discuss devices, I'm discussing them, my discussion regarding them aligns with, connection and what the goals are, okay, with getting in competition for role change, to take the lead role. And even physical force and all those other issues, when people talk about those, usually they're way off base, okay? They're just approaching it from, what's seen from the surface, and they're not making certain connections, they're not connecting certain dots, because they're not seeing what this connection issue is. And again, this takes years of really letting the walls drop on how you're thinking. You have to be open-minded about it, and you have to keep bringing it to the real standard and test, which is how a dog's decision-making process is impacted. So, so when I talk about something like a muzzle, we have to look at it in the context of that. So when I approach a muzzle, I look at it in terms of, what is this device doing, and what is what's the end goal? What are we doing here? Number one is, obviously when we're using a device such as a muzzle, we're using it to control a bad outcome. We don't want to get bitten, okay? And that's very important here. When I'm helping dog owners, the first thing I'm doing is putting a structure in place and getting it to a point where we can kind of relax about role change, because it's like a journey. You're taking the pressure off. You're not concerned about a bad outcome such as someone getting bitten. And that's why it's very important when I give advice to dog owners is to take what I say serious, because obviously once a dog's gotten to that level of having that amount of power, once you hit the tipping point, and as soon as a bite happens, usually that's resulting in the dog being destroyed or given up on. So how we approach our decision-making process is different than how a dog's responding. They're responding within the moment. They're responding from the context of the relational roles. It's just not coming from nowhere when a dog bites, okay? Of course, if we go in and we don't have a dog's best interest at heart, and we're just pushing onto a dog this type of a over-the-top influence and authority, any dog's going to respond. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about once the dog hits that tipping point, relationally, they're going to respond. They're going to challenge almost any sort of level of influence at that level, and that's where the dog owner has to get in tune to where they stand. If they're being objectified and just perceived by the dog as a means to an end, just like parenting, the narcissistic, and selfish child syndrome, they want to be around the parent that the word's yes all the time. Okay, so you're not going to see drama there. You're going to see drama with the other parent that's coming in and starting to put up boundaries. The drama happens. So this is the same as role changing the dog. So getting back to the whole issue of the devices, we have to look at what we're doing. What's our end goal here? My end goal here when I'm using a device is I'm focusing on the dog owner to bring them in competition. So when I'm using a device such as a muzzle, yes, we want to control the bite, but it's a role-changing tool. Okay, so your goal is when you're using a tool such as a muzzle, you have to be putting it, taking this device and putting it in the context of where you're heading and what your end goal is. It's to ultimately fix your dog so you don't need a muzzle anymore. I mean, that's the whole thing. When I use a device that is a crate, as a muzzle, as whatever it is, it's a temporary thing. Even a leash. Once the foundation is changed out, once the foundation stones are changed out in the relationship, once role change has happened, then you have a dog that's within the confines of the follower role, which is a happy role. Then all the devices can kind of go away. Certain what you use, you don't have to use anymore, like that, or at that level. So here, same thing with the muzzle. So now, getting back to the muzzle itself, the choice of a muzzle. There's certain types of muzzles, and I have one on order. It's called an agitation muzzle. When that comes in, I'll explain that one. It allows the bite reflex to happen, and it's about the relation. It's relational, and I explain the context of that type of device. But if you're at a point when your dog has the lead role and is expressing more of an aggressive state, then you want a muzzle that keeps the mouth closed. Okay, you do. You don't want the bite reflex happening. Some muzzles are designed to allow the mouth to open up and everything like that. The comfort level, you don't want it. I mean, it's not about comfort level here. It's not about hurting your dog either. But you want the mouth closed. And this the other thing is because you're using a muzzle that keeps the mouth closed, you're not going to keep it on the dog 24/7. You're going to get wise to when it should be used. But you definitely want the mouth closed. The dog, you want to remove the ability for the bite reflex to have the dog express that state. Because the problem here is if the bite reflex happens and expresses that state, it's coming through the relational roles. It's like a drug to the dog. Okay, you want to shut that down, because we do want to bring influence onto the dog. Okay, we want to keep the mouth closed. And again, this is the thing, while we're creating role change. So the point here isn't just to maintain a level of control forever and not fix anything, but that often is what happens with devices. Is not an extension. It doesn't represent change, meaningful change. So here the whole goal is to create change. So as you're using the muzzle, you have to get wise again. Certain circumstances. If you're going to the vet or some other area, then a muzzle is a good idea if your dog's holding a lot of power, because we don't want anyone getting bitten. Okay, but at the same time when you're using it, you're going to interrupt those states. You're going to create follower states. You're going to start to target the dog's decision making, and so it's a tool. So anyway, again, muzzle, good idea. You have to be aware of the circumstance you want to use it in. But again, when you're using a device, always think about not just controlling a situation, but think about how this is going to help you change. Because ultimately, you want to get rid of it. Okay, you don't need it anymore, because that's about overcoming. That's what my whole system's about, is overcoming and winning. So it doesn't matter, if you failed in the past, if you're experiencing some sort of a mess right now with your dog, if you're not certain, I can help. I mean, the issue here too with devices, I'm able to sit down, explain it out, so that you can see exactly a clear path to where you're going. Because if you think about devices, you may not be thinking about them right. Okay, you may just be using certain devices and wondering, well, okay, I'm using a pinch collar, or I'm using this, or I'm using that. Why isn't anything changing? Okay, or why is my dog responding good for that person, my husband or wife or partner, but it's not responding, good for me. The whole thing is context. The dog may be appearing to respond better for somebody, but it's just kind of smoke and mirrors. The dog, it's like saying the role change hasn't even happened. It's kind of a fight or flight thing going on. The dog, so don't be fooled. So ultimately, you have to put everything in context. You have to identify who the main dog owner is, and what the relational roles are, and where that person's standing, and then move towards fixing it. So anyway, hopefully this provides a little better insight into the muzzle, into devices in general, and what the goals are from moving from controlling a problem to really fixing it. So if you have any questions, feel free to call me. If you're in Florida, I have options of training. If you live outside of Florida, I have distance option, which I talk to you on the phone, design a specific program to meet your needs. And it's all about nudging you towards creating meaningful change. And having a rewarding relationship with your dog, one that's balanced, one that's happy, one that lifts the burden of this role off your dog's shoulders, because ultimately a lot of dogs are carrying the stress and anxiety and burden of this role, and it's not firing on all cylinders. It's not natural to the dog, because what's happening is we're giving the dog power through the relational roles, but we're putting aspects of control over the dog, and it doesn't make sense to the dog. Okay, and the dog can't keep the lead role anyway within society, because obviously, clearly, it doesn't work out well. But at the same time, we need to make sure that it's a balance. It comes through balance. Okay, that truly we're bringing the dog into the confines of the lead role. When I say confines, it doesn't mean a bad thing. It's not a restrictive type thing. It's relational, just like being a parent. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope this video is somewhat insightful. I hope you have a great day.